Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to look at this chicken and this Monopoly man and understand why didn't the Spanish colonies unify like the United States of America? And that's a lot of nuances there. If you're new here, appreciate you, by the way. But yeah, feel free to subscribe if you like learning and stuff like this. Why didn't the Spanish colonies unify like the United States? So I'm guessing like obviously we had 13 colonies and the 13 colonies had a common enemy. We rose together in unification and it felt better to do so for trade, government, XYZ. We also had a continental congress from representatives of each state. So each representative really mattered, and states kind of with unification really mattered. I think I've already answered a lot of this, but let's see what they say.
More specifically, a South America. Have you ever tried to unbreak an egg? More specifically, a South America-shaped egg. Well, it would probably be a little easier than unifying the Spanish colonies after.
So of course we're not going to take into effect the Portuguese or the French colonies here.
Their independence. Now sure, the North Americans managed to unify, mostly, but to extend the metaphor, they were, well, fully developed. They already had a shared vision and identity. They chose when to hatch and thus flew into the world a fully formed bald eagle. Latin America, on the other hand, was still raw when its egg was cracked open. You see, in the late 18th century, the Spanish ruled a huge chunk of the Americas. All of Central America, almost half of the North.
Yeah, let's look at that. Like you got Cuba, you got pretty much the Louisiana Purchase, Florida, New Spain, which is Mexico, Latin America, and then South America from Colombia down to Argentina and Chile. And it even shows the Falkland Islands right there as well. Yeah.
North and nearly all of South America except Brazil. Then came Napoleon, who decided he fancied himself a Spanish omelette. He occupied Spain, deposed its king, and placed his own brother on the throne. Suddenly, the vast Spanish Empire was smashed open. Scrambled, if you will. The Spanish colonies saw Bonapartist Spain as illegitimate, and it wasn't long before a tide of insurgencies and revolutions swept across Latin America. However, by the time the rest of Europe brought down Napoleon and restored the rightful king, Spain's economy and military were in shambles. Thus, the new South American countries didn't have much to fear in terms of external threats. So, there was no political imperative to remain united.
So basically, you're saying Napoleon kind of screwed everything up.
Nevertheless, there was an effort to unite South America. Between the two major independence movements, the one in the north, led by Simón Bolívar, had great
Simón Bolívar, who eventually, I think, predates Bolivia.
Ambitions of unity. Bolívar had created Gran Colombia, a country which encompassed today's Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, and parts of Peru. He'd been inspired by the American Revolution, Yankee Doodle, and dreamed of a Spanish-American union under the strong central rule of one leader. But who could that possibly be? Why, yes, of course, himself. What a stupid question. Meanwhile, José de San Martín, another foundational hero of South America, was busy liberating Chile and Argentina from royalist rule in the south. But like Bolívar in the north, San Martín, too, had federalists that opposed his vision. We oppose your vision! There was one big difference between them, though. San Martín favored a monarchy, while Bolívar wanted a republic. That was probably a big point of discussion when the
different government.
Two great leaders met in 1822. Now, we have no record of what was said at that meeting, but it's pretty clear that Bolívar came out on top, so to speak.
Get off me! You're on my face.
Because immediately afterwards, San Martín decided to step down from power and to leave South America altogether. How sad. Unfortunately, Bolívar would soon discover that keeping his Gran Colombia together would be quite the headache. In fact, his presidency was almost constantly attacked by opportunistic politicians, some of whom had previously fought on his side against the Spanish.
Power struggle.
By 1830, Bolívar had all but abandoned his hope of a united South America. He resigned in May and had passed away by December. Oh dear. Of course, it wasn't just politics that prevented unity. You also have to look at the economic side of things. The Spanish colonies were in many ways run as a feudal enterprise, with the majority of their wealth coming from extracted metals and cash crops. Compare this to the British colonies, where capitalism was baked in from the start and where shipping raw materials back to Europe wasn't the be-all and end-all of economic strategies. The British-American farmers and capitalists had plenty to gain from union, while the Spanish-American landed aristocracy had plenty to lose. When you look at the geography, things become even
So it was like it was really just an export side of things, right? Is that what we're saying here?
clearer. The 13 colonies covered only the eastern coast of North America, stopping at the Appalachian Mountains, so trade and communication between them was relatively simple. In South America,
We're about to talk about the biodiversity of the Andes, the freaking Amazon. It is not an easy terrain to talk to people.
the vast mountains and rainforests were a whole different ballgame. And this really boils down to our final factor, communication. In the north, pamphlets, letters, and newspapers spread across the colonies like wildfire, building the idea of an American identity in opposition to the evil British overlords. You're going to die, Americans?
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Or something like that. In South America, the absence of infrastructure made intercolonial communication hard.
Of
Not to
course.
mention that the feudal economy didn't exactly encourage
Wow, so there's not, it's a huge learning curve for everybody.
literacy. In fact, the Spanish Empire forbade any contact between the colonies at all. Everything had to go through Madrid. So, the Spanish colonies did have the political opportunity to unite shortly after independence, but the underlying ingredients just weren't there. Even if they had pushed for it harder, the result would have probably still been a failed souffle, rather than a successful superstate. Thank you for watching, my friend.
That was a short video, but look, what is the biodiversity, not the biodiversity, yeah, it's just animals and plants, but the actual geography of the area is just too vast. But look, it could still happen to this day because the big problem really had to do with technology, communication, and unification. But, people are just so tied to their country, tied to their culture, that I don't think it would happen today. But it would have to have came to a time around today for this to succeed. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think the Spanish colonies would have ever unified based on all of this. I would love to learn a little bit more about Mr. Bolivar. I think that's an interesting story, especially since, he had huge ambitions and there was a lot of things happening there. So if you guys have any fun videos around him, let me know. But thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.